All right, guys. Cash flow statement, one of the most important areas, to the extent that you will certainly get it in section A. You might get it in section B and section C as well. Okay. You will not be asked. It's part of the syllabus. You can be asked, but precedent is because the examiner has a lot of other areas to test as well. So the precedent is that the examiner might not ask you to produce a full-fledged cash flow statement. Okay, he might only ask you to produce an extract, for example, from cash, related to cash from operations or cash from financing activities and all these things, right? And definitely you will get questions in section A for this topic. Okay. Now, the reason why it's important for the examiner is because it's important practically as well. Okay, let's try to understand why it's important practically. Okay. Now, remember one thing. Let me show you something. Sorry. These are the three avenues for the business to generate or to spend. Spend could be in the form of expenses or it could be in the form of investment. Okay. These are three avenues to generate or spend cash for a business. Operations, which is reflected in your P&L, and working capital, which basically is current assets minus current liabilities, right? So that's your working capital. Your investments, which is reflected in the top half of the statement of financial position, and your financing activities, which is reflected in the bottom half of the statement of financial position. All right. Three avenues, right? Now, obviously, when as an investor, when as a shareholder, I look at the financial statements, the first thing that I'm concerned about is EPS, earnings per share, or the profit. Yes, this is what I'm concerned about. Okay. But then you know what? A lot of I've literally seen people studying the financial statements, and I don't know what their concern or what items are material to them. Okay. But I feel the next figure that you should look at is the cash position of the company. Can anyone explain why the cash position of the company is so important? I'm just talking about the position right now. I'm not talking about how it was generated and all these things. I'm just talking about the position.
Because
Hmm.
they could be forced into liquidation by their like the people that they have borrowed money from, and the business could cease to exist. Whereas if they don't have profit, that's still fine.
All right, so you're saying that having a profit but not having enough cash could force them into liquidation, right?
Yeah.
Which would reflect that the profit is just because profit is on accruals basis, so it's all notional income. It's not actual income, and the actual income, which is in cash, is probably negative or the money is owed to people around, and that would ultimately or that would could basically lead them into liquidation, right? That's what you're saying.
Right.
Makes
Yeah.
perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. Okay, but but let me tell you something. She has assumed the worst case scenario, which every investor, every shareholder will assume or will consider at the back of his mind. Okay, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. You have to be prudent. Okay, you have to be prudent. A more closer proximity to why I would look at the cash position right after assessing the profit is because I would want to know. how much of my profit is being converted into cash? How much of my profit is just the profit of my company is a notional income. It's not an actual. Can you pay your suppliers a chunk of profit? Have you heard any company saying that we paid our suppliers in profit? Have you heard any company saying we have invested our profits into into another company when we are buying the shares? No. All the thing you do is you either pay cash or you make a promise to pay cash in the future. Okay? You either pay cash or you make a promise to pay cash. Or if you remember IS 32 financial instruments, we studied definition of financial assets. You make a commitment to deliver a financial asset to a counterparty, another financial asset, probably not cash or a commitment to pay cash. Okay. The point is this, let me tell you something. This runs your business. Okay. Your cash, I'm not talking about right now, I'm not talking about where the cash is coming from. I'll come to that in a bit. But your cash runs your business. Okay. Ultimately, how, yeah, or in whatever way you have deployed that cash, in whatever way you deployed that cash, deployment means investment. Okay. It could be into working capital, it could be into long-term capital, it could be into, various different avenues. Okay. However you've deployed that cash, the performance is reflected over here. The performance of that investment is reflected over here. Okay. A lot of people take it vice versa, which is wrong. What did I just say? Deployment of cash, the profit itself is a resultant of the deployment of cash. If you don't have cash, what will you deploy? And if you have nothing to deploy, how will you earn profit? Okay. So the point is that generating profit is totally dependent on having enough cash. And not just profit, saving you as a business. If you want to save your business in times of, let's say, when you're incurring high losses and having no cash, I cannot even tell you how toxic that is. Okay. A lot of businesses fail because they do have cash, but that cash has been committed to some party. That means they're probably over trading. They have a lot of payables. That means they do have cash right now. They're withholding cash, but that cash belongs to the suppliers. That cash belongs to the lenders. That cash belongs to the bond holders. That cash belongs to the loan note holders. That cash is withheld because the tax payments are after a year. This, I'm not talking about this cash because this cash cannot be deployed anywhere. It's like you're just holding it, but it cannot do anything for your business except for settle off your obligations. That's all. Point is, when you deployed that cash, when you committed that cash, when you were taking credit from the supplier, that means you are committing that cash, right? Future, that's a future. Basically, the settlement will be in the future, but you're committing it right now, right? So let's say an X amount, let's say $100 of credit I take from the supplier. Now that $100 will be paid after 3 months, for example, okay, to the supplier. Point is, have you generated enough from this $100? Because obviously you won't pay back. You have taken credit in terms of inventory, right? You won't pay back in terms of inventory, you'll pay back in terms of cash. You need to convert this inventory into cash and a profit on it within 3 months. Otherwise, you'll have to pay back the supplier from your own pockets. This is a very simple example. Does it make sense? Guys, does it make sense or no?
Yes.
Okay. So the point is, fine, if you're generating $100 only, if let's say you generate $100 only, that means you haven't made any profit. If you generate only $80 on it and you have to pay $100 back, that means the inventory costed you 100, you've just generated 80, not more than that. So a loss of 20 and a negative cash position of 20 as well. A negative cash position of 20 as well. Why? Because you're going to be settling it off for 100, right? You have to pay 20 from your pockets or from other avenues of the business. Okay. So the point is this: understanding how the cash moves within a business, very important, very crucial for any investor, any shareholder, any user of financial statement. Now, coming to the avenues of generating or spending cash. Tell me something. You guys will tell me. For a business, generating cash from which avenue is the most crucial thing? It's the most crucial element of a business. I'm talking about cash generation right now. Generating
Operations.
operations. Because if you are in a cash positive position from operations, that means you're self sufficient. Okay. You're standing on your own 2 feet. Okay. And you can walk on your own. You don't need financiers. You don't need external help. You don't need more equity. You don't need more loan. Okay. So this avenue is the most crucial one. For spending, for spending, you can consider spending as investments and um, incurring expenses, daily expenses, monthly expenses, yearly expenses. Which avenue is the most important? Is the most crucial? Come on, guys. Which avenue is the most crucial? For spending cash, which avenue is the most crucial avenue?
Invest.
Investment.
Same.
Same. Who said that?
I. Me.
Okay. Saleh, you did, right? You said it, right? Okay.
Yes.
All right. You're saying operations. Conan is saying, and Conan and someone else said investment, right? Okay. Both of you are correct. Why am I saying that? It depends. It depends on what? It depends whether your business is capital intensive. You guys know this term? Or labor intensive. Okay. If your business is more labor intensive, you will be in putting out more cash in working capital rather than long term capital. But if your business is capital intensive, you'll be putting out more money in long term investments, in long term capital. Okay. But when we're talking about generating cash, all of us agree that one avenue, which is operations, is the most crucial. There is nothing more crucial than operations. Yes, there could be exceptions. There could definitely be exceptions. Okay. For example, we will study that in consolidation as well, but I'll just give you an example right now. There are certain companies that are called holding companies. Okay. And these holding companies, basically, their only business, they don't have any trading or manufacturing concerns. Their only business is to make investments. All right. So they have different investments. Now, for them, obviously, they have no operations. So the main income that they will be earning would be investment income in terms of dividend or, let's say, interest. Okay. So for such businesses, investment income becomes crucial. Cash generated from investments become crucial. Okay. Because they have to reinvest that cash, right? They have to reinvest that cash. Okay. But obviously, these holding companies, the main structure of this business is to take money, invest money. So generation itself is not to the extent where they could, every year generate enough money to buy a new company. Okay, this is not how this business model usually works. Okay, now IAS 7 is the standard that deals with how you should present, how you should prepare the cash flow statement. Okay, there are two methods. We just agreed that these are three main avenues of generation and spending of cash in a business. And these basically are not just the three avenues, these are three classifications, you can say, that IAS 7 has given us to basically present our cash flow statement in. You have to bifurcate the cash flow statement into three segments: operations, investments, and financing. Okay. So this is how it should be bifurcated. Cash flow from operations basically is relates to your P&L and your working capital. Cash from investing activities relates to the non-current asset part, and cash from financing activity relates to the equity and non-current liability part. Okay, any movement would mean that you're probably incurring more cash or you're generating more cash, right? So this would reflect cash from operations, cash from investing activities, and cash from financing activities. Right now, coming back to what different ways have has IAS 7 tell us to prepare the cash statement in? Two methods: direct and indirect. The only difference, listen to me very carefully, guys. Please don't confuse this later on. Okay, don't get confused about it. The only difference between direct and indirect method is in cash flow from operations. Cash flow from investing, cash flow from financing stays the same. The only difference between direct and indirect is cash flow from operations. Done? Now, what is the difference? The difference is within it's the name that suggests the difference. Okay. In direct method of cash flow statement, you directly report whatever you have, whatever cash you have generated during the year from the customers, whatever cash you have spent during the year to pay the suppliers, to pay the salaries and wages, to pay interest, to pay taxes, right? To pay, any other kind of obligations that you had, right? All these things. But like I said, restricted to the operations only. Okay. It's restricted to the operations only. For example, interest income. Interest income is an investment income. It's not part of operations. All right. Now, That's basically the direct method. Whereas the indirect method is a reconciliation method. Reconciliation between what? Reconciliation between one of the most important figures in the eyes of the investor, the shareholder, the user, and the cash flow it's generated. Okay. So it starts from profit before tax. All right. It starts from profit before tax, and you reconcile certain items, you adjust certain items. Okay. These items are non-cash expenses and non-cash income. Profit before tax is prepared using the accruals basis. Okay. Profit before tax is prepared. It's coming from the income statement, right? The statement of comprehensive income. So that's prepared based on accruals basis. And accruals basis say that you have to look at the event rather than income and basically outgoing of cash, right? What do we reconcile for? All non-cash expenses are to be added back because they weren't actually a cash outflow. So why should they reduce the profit when they were not even an actual cash outflow? Why should they reduce the profit? So basically, what we're doing over here is we're converting the accounting profit into a cash profit or a loss, depending on the situation. Okay. So all non-cash expenses are supposed to be added back. For example, depreciation, amortization, interest expense itself is it's an expense. It's not necessary that the amount of expense you've charged to the P&L is the same amount you've paid. Remember IFRS 9, IS 32, in which we basically look at the amortization table, right? Loss on disposal is also a non-cash expense, needs to be added back. Okay. Similarly, all non-cash income, logically speaking, should be deducted. Why? Because non-cash income was just notional income. There's nothing coming in. There's no cash incoming, right? So this will be deducted, 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 and there is a possibility that investment income could actually be the amount of cash that the business is receiving. But the point is, it's a matter of classification as well, right? Because investment income is not part of operations. So you need to reclassify, you need to deduct it from here and then add it back in cash flow from investing activity. Ultimately, the effect will be zero. Minus and plus effect will be zero, right? But the point is that this is a matter of classification now. When you need to bifurcate between operations, investments, and financing, you need to make sure that you have classified it correctly so that correct figures come out in front of the shareholders. They know exactly how much is the operations generating. They know exactly how much is the investing and financing activities generating. Okay. Now, once you have this figure, you'll take the sum and you'll get cash flow from operations before changes in working capital. Obviously, from this moment onwards, right? Again, it's still part of operations. So over here, changes in working capital, and over here, in direct method, okay? Since you're considering paying to suppliers, this will also consider any increase in balances towards the suppliers, that is payables, okay? Since you're just considering cash received from customers, this would also consider the increase or decrease in your receivable balance, not just directly whatever cash you receive, but it will also consider the increase or decrease in receivables balance. Okay. So that is why it's called the direct method. Now, from this point onwards, what you have to do is you have to see whether you have to basically compare the current balance with the last year balance. Okay. Let's try to take an example. Over here, for example, current year outstanding inventory is 60. Last year outstanding inventory was 55. Question is, why does it show a negative 5 element. Why does it show a negative impact on cash? You have to look
Cash
at from a,
utilized.
sorry?
Cash has been utilized to buy inventory.
Exactly. Additional cash has been utilized. Additional cash has now been invested in the form of in inventory, which means that on the cash flow itself, on the cash itself, it's a negative impact. On the cash itself, it's a negative impact. Okay, so this would turn out to be negative. What about receivables? Is it a positive or a negative figure? What should it be? It's
Positive.
previous positive. Why?
Because receivables has decreased. So we have got
So
cash inflow.
exactly. Receivable has decreased. That means more cash is coming in. Additional $10 have been received. That's why your receivables balance decreased, right? What about payables?
Vice versa.
Vice versa.
Payable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because payable means that if you now over here the payables is decreasing, that means I've settled additional $5 against my payables balance. So technically I'm in a negative cash position. Okay, you understand? So whatever working capital item you look at, you need to look at from the cash perspective. What if the inventory, let's say, would have been 30, going from 55 of inventory to 30? That means you've realized now your inventory position has fallen over the period of time. That means you've realized more inventory in cash. You have generated cash out of this inventory. Okay, similarly, let's say if your receivable would have increased to 65. Previously, your customers owed you 50. Now they owe you $15 more. So more cash, additional $15 is stuck with the customers. So you're in a negative $15 position, right? And for example, over here, it let's say increase to 75. Previously, you withheld $50 of the supplier's balance. That means you had $50 in your pocket. Now you have $25 more as compared to the last year. Okay, so this is basically a logic behind how to work out the working capital changes with respect to cash. Okay, now once you've incorporated that, you have cash flow from operations after changes in working capital. Any interest paid, not expense, paid, will be deducted. Any taxes paid will be deducted. Cash generated or used in operations. If it's a positive figure, cash generated from operations. If it's a negative figure, cash used in operations. Okay, and then you simply have cash flow for investing and cash flow from financing activities. Like I told you, this relates to movement in non-current assets, and this relates to movement in equity and non-current liability, right? So this area is the same between the direct and indirect method. Okay, you take the sum of cash generated from operations or cash used in operations, cash generated from investing or cash used in investing, cash generated from financing or cash used in financing. You take the sum of all three things and you will get net cash flow generated or used during the year. If it's negative, used. If it's positive, generated. Whatever cash and cash equivalent you had at the start of the year. What's cash? We know what cash is. What's cash equivalent? Any instrument that is readily convertible to cash. Okay, that's called cash equivalent. For example, short-term investments could be treated as cash equivalent. Okay, investment in treasury bills could be treated as cash equivalent if they're readily convertible to cash. Okay. And you will finally get closing cash and cash equivalent. This amount should be the same. It should be the same, no difference, as the cash and bank and cash equivalent reported in SOFP. All right, as at whatever the reporting period is, 31st Amazon 21, for example. Okay, now point is, what is the recommended approach of IS 7? What type of cash flow statement should be on the face of the statement of statement of cash flow or the financial statements? As a shareholder, what type of what method would you want the company to use for you to see? What method would make more sense to you, direct or indirect? Come on, guys. Like, that's a personal answer. You can easily give that answer, right? It's your personal preference. There's nothing related to the stand I've asked. What would your personal preference be? Direct method or indirect method? On the face of the face, both are reported. Okay, both are reported. The direct method and the indirect method, both are reported. But what do you want on the face of the financial statements? Sare, which one would you recommend? Direct or indirect? Conan, what about you? Come on, guys, it's not a difficult question to answer. And there's no right or wrong answer. Come on. It's like, it's your personal preference. All right, I didn't catch your answers. What was it? So what's your answer now? Direct or indirect?
Direct.
Direct. Okay. Conan, what about you? Alia? Pritham, what about
I
you?
prefer indirect.
Okay, I guess you
Indirect.
want to indirect. Okay. Salih, what's the reason for looking at the direct method of cash flow? Why would you want direct method of cash flow? What's your reason for this preference?
Because it will be simple, easy to understand.
It will be easy to understand. Okay. But how would you know, or how would you basically, figure out what the figures that they've been using?
No, we are preparing both of them, right?
Yeah, we're
You just
preparing both of
asked.
them. But what do
Yeah.
you want on the face? Face is something that every shareholder looks at. It's
Yeah.
something that every shareholder looks at. That's the face, right?
Yes.
So you would want direct. All right. Guys, Conan and Alia, why would you want indirect? There has to be a reason. Don't tell me it's just for fun. There has to be a reason behind it. Okay, I have the same choice, indirect. Okay, why? I'll tell you. The reason why I would want an indirect statement of cash flows on the face is because I want to see the reconciliation for me, the most important thing is this reconciliation part, because all the things are the same, right? What I'm concerned about is reconciliation. How much profit converts into cash? That can only be reflected in the indirect method of cash flows. Okay, cannot be reflected in the direct method. You understand? That's why
Yes.
my preference would be indirect method. Does the company, any company reports direct method? Yes, they do. They report it elsewhere in the annual report, but IAS 7 recommends that you use the indirect method of cash flow statement. You understand? Guys, do you understand this?
Yes. Yes.
All right, great. Now, let's do some kit questions from section A and section B.